Cool. So in the last class, we introduced SCSS or SASS, which we regarded it as CSS with superpowers. And then we saw the different ways of how to write it with the syntax, but everything in the class was much of theory. And then we promised that today we are going to get into practical. So that is what we'll be going into today. We are going to be highlighting the following stuffs: variables. We are going to see nesting in action, partials, mixins, and then functions. So let me see how many of you guys were or have been active learning SCSS. Just signify if you have tried something out from the videos, okay, to oh, so everybody's still comfortable with tailwind. Nice. Wait, simply put that the grid in your location have not been restored. Godfrey. We hope we get light soon. Okay, so regardless, let's proceed. I believe that if we do this in action, we are going to understand more, and then let's see if we are going to be trying it out. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen? Just signify with an emoji. Nice. Okay, so I tried some things out, but let me just clear them. Okay, so this is the regular folder we are always working with. And then what's happening is I created a new file here called SASS, and then I'm going to work with this. So this way we're going to create like all our SASS files and then write all our codes in it, right? So let me just zoom in. Can you all see my screen this way? All right. So let me close this tab. All right. So let's create a new file, or want to do our styling with SASS. So the first thing I will employ everyone to do when
Sorry, sir. Can you please zoom in a little bit?
how about now? Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we created a new folder called SASS, and then to work with this, I'm going to create a new SASS file, just index.scss, and then I press enter. So like I started explaining in the last class, SASS or your browser or your HTML file doesn't recognize SASS files. What they recognize is CSS, right? So what happens behind the scenes is that SCSS, when you write SASS, it is being compiled down to CSS. That is, it goes through something called a compiler that breaks it down to become a normal CSS, right? So to be able to compile our CSS down to SCSS, to be able to compile our SCSS down to CSS, what we need to do is to install an extension. So if you are on VS Code now, just head over and install this extension. It's called yeah, I think live SCSS. Yeah. So live SASS compiler. That's it. So this guy here, I already have it installed. So you can just check it out and then install it by Glenn Max. So always check out the downloads. It's at about 1 million plus. So you'll be able to verify that. So after we install that, we should be able to use it to always compile the SAS code into CSS. And then once we do that, you are going to notice something here. Either it's showing watching or watch file or watch SAS or watch. Yeah, so watch SAS. So if it tells you watch SAS, it's going to watch like all the SAS files that you have here. And then you can see that here, like here live in the terminal, right? From the output. So if it's watching, you know, if it's not watching, it says not watching. So currently I'm not watching it. Yeah. So I created this SAS file, index.css, and then I want to start adding some styling into it. So before I start styling, I need a HTML file. So I'm going to call this SAS .html, right? And then I generate the boilerplate. Yeah, so these are SAS file. Yeah, and then so notice, so now I want to style the body. So let's see, I want to start the body. And then I'll give it like padding of 0 and then margin of 0. Nice. So now for me to import this guy here, I can't import this file directly here in the SAS file. I can't come here and then link. And then in the href, instead of wanting to link a CSS file, I will want to link like, let's say SAS slash index.css. Let's try this out and see what will happen. So let's try to watch. Now, when we are watching our SAS file, can you see it created like two different files for me? So this is index.css.map. Yeah, and then index.css, and then it creates a real CSS file. So that means it has been compiled down from index.scss to CSS. And then the same style, giving our body padding of 0, margin of 0, this same index.css is appending the same style to our CSS, right? So this we write it SCSS, and then it's been compiled down to CSS. So let's try to go live in our project and see. So first, let me just create a div, and then let me add a style here for a div. And then let me say width 100 px, height 100 px, and then I'm going to give it a background color of aqua. Okay, so this showing success and then it's watching. So if I still check my index.css, you see the same style that I gave this div has been appended here. That means it has compiled down from XCSS to CSS, right? And so we're going to see the difference between writing SASS and then writing CSS. For now, it looks actually the same and similar, but we're going to spot out like the little differences that we have between both of them. So when I check out my SASS file and I try to go live on port, yeah. So can you see? I can't see any style here. I can't see any style here. Why can't I see any style? So let's try something out again and then check it out. So this time, instead of importing index.scss, we are going to import index.css, right? And then let's hover back and check out. So can you see? We have this style currently. What happened here is just that your HTML, like I explained, and your browser doesn't understand SCSS. It only understands CSS. So that's why SCSS is compiled down to CSS for you here. And then the CSS file that has been created for you here is what you are going to create, is what you are going to link to the HTML file for your styling to take effect. And then it happens just normal, like the normal thing that you keep doing. So you write SCSS here, and the more code you write here, the more they keep getting compiled, so long as you are watching, and then it's being translated or compiled down to this CSS. And then since this CSS file is linked to the HTML file, every styling within the CSS, you can be able to access it in the HTML file. So are we clear on that concept? All right. So let's go like to the main stuff. So I hope everybody has live server now installed and then is watching this. Just click on watch, try to create this, try to link it, and then knows how to link, right? So let's try to write some more SCSS. So the first thing I want to talk about today, so I'll just clear this one off. Oh, I don't need. So I come here and I don't see any style, right? Until I add styles here before it's going to translate back here. All right. So the first thing I would like to discuss about is variables. We talked about this in the last class, but today is the day that we are going to try out like all the examples. And then probably if there's still time, we are going to try to build something with SASS today. There's supposed to be a template, but we couldn't get one very early. So that's why we just let it slide. So we explained in the last class that variables are used so we explained that variables are used to store values that can be reused throughout like our styles or throughout our style sheets. That's what we say variables are. And then variables help us to save values. I understand I explained some basic concept why we need variables the last time. I say probably if we have a set of colors that we are going to be using within our app, and then we don't want to keep repeating. So let's take, for example, let me style this again. Let me style the div. And then I'm going to have a text inside, maybe H4. And then I want to still give it a color of red. So let's take these two examples. It's been compiled down here. And then I'm going to create a H4 here. That says this is our last class for this module. So congratulations to you guys on graduating HTML, CSS, and markup languages. So this is the H4. So automatically it's going to take this styling because I did it for a H4. And then in this div, I'm going to try to give it a width of this and height of this. So we can just see the two. Right now, this has been compiled down. Yeah, so we can see the two. This is red, and this is also red color. Now, this is me repeating red colors. So imagine I have a bunch of styles, and then everywhere I have to just saying red color. So maybe I always want the box and this to be the same color, and I want to change it to blue. So that would be me doing this again. I'll have to come here and say blue. Also come back here and say blue. And then that has a lot of stress for me. Imagine there's like 1,000 places where all of these styles or all these colors are being repeated, and I want it to be uniform always. How can I do it? So that's where the concept of variables came in. And then it's very easy and it's done this way in SASS. Okay, so I changed the CSS instead of the SASS. Can you imagine? So it's going to turn out to be the same thing. All right. So now, to work with variables, what will happen is I am going to declare this. I'm going to start with the $sign and then give it a variable name. Maybe I have a color and then I might give it, let's say, primary color. That's the name of my variable. Next, I use this and then declare what is my primary color. So let's say my primary color is green. So I want to change this to green. That's what it means, right? So if with variables, I can just come here. Let's say I want this to be green color now, so I'm going to change it all to the variable color. So primary color, and then this guy too is going to be primary color. And then let's watch out. Now, oh, sorry, I took out the width. Yeah, so it has appended green color. Now, anytime I want to change this, I can always just come back here and then just this one single place. Let's say I want to change all my primary colors to orange, and then I just have to just do it here. And then can you see that's taking effect on both places? So that's just how variables work. It allows you to reuse them and you can keep use them like over and over again. And then anytime you want to make changes, you just make changes to like one particular place. All right. So that's it for variables. Do we have any questions from there? You can ask before I proceed. Can I proceed, guys? All right. So the next thing we are going to talk about now is nesting. And then let's try to build something little, like a very simple app. And then we are going to use nesting to try to refactor it and see what it's going to look like, right? Yeah, okay, someone raising up their hands. Okay, Jetro, let's hear you.
Okay, good morning, sir. I recall that the last class when you were speaking about variables, you talked about the global and the local variable. And then I noticed that I was doing a research and then I met a concept which is global switch under variable, whereby a variable was declared globally and within a code block, that is the local variable, it was declared also and then switched to global. So I was a bit confused. If we can set it globally, then is there a need for us to switch it? And for it to be there, I know there are use cases where global switch is very important. So I want to know the use cases for that global switch. If you can please explain. Thank you. Your mic is off, sir. Your mic is off.
Okay. Yeah, so that's great research. And then I really, I for one haven't gone that deep into it and asked why the need for global switches. But we can just ask a few questions here from ChatGPT and ask him why we need global switches for SASS variables. Oh, so I think it's just this guy is just trying to explain like a switch case for us, right? So I really can't wrap my head around that for now, but we are going to come back to that like before the end of the class and see why there is a need to use like a particular style globally, or switch it from a local variable to a global variable. Why not just make it global, right? But I think basically what they want is at times you might be writing your code and then uh you have forgotten to specify or you didn't specify it on global and probably you have gone far and then it's a local variable and then you realize that you want it to be used within other places, right? So instead of you refactoring, I'm going to like take it out and turn it back to a global variable. Why not just switch, right? So I think it's just to make life easy at the end of the day for devs. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so we have showed an example of this primary color, and then we'll also talk about the local variable, right? So I completely forgot about that. So we can say maybe local color, and then make it green, no, or local height, and then make it like 50 px, and then change this height here and say local height, and then the height is going to be 50 px, right? So can always check that here. So can you see now the height is a bit shorter, Right. So there are other things like operators. So we can also, I think this is the best time to talk about operators. So operators also exist. Let me do this here. So operators are your normal plus, your minus, your multiplication, your division. So you can use it here in SASS. And then let's say I want any height that I get, any height that is being set as the local height, I want it to be multiplied by 2, and then it's going to be like the real height of my div. So that means it's going to turn my div to 100px. So can you see my div is now bigger? That's you using operators. I can also do times, let's say, let's make it times 10. So that's like 1000px. Can you see? It makes it much more larger. So you can use operators. Let's say I want to say it should be divided by 4. That is, anything I say should be 4 times smaller. That's 25px. And then we have 25px, right? So that's how to work with operators. So you use this, maybe you want to do some particular calculations. Take, for example, you have 2 divs. And then you want the size of the inner div to be half the size of like the parents. How can you do that? So let's make use of this div as an example. Yeah, SASS. Yeah, so I'm going to create this div and then add this one inside. And then all of them have 100px, right? So let's use the idea of nesting now. So I like nesting. So let's use the idea of nesting to also explain like this other one. So what's going to happen now is that I'm giving a style to like all divs in this SCSS. So I'm styling every div. But then in nesting, I can do something like this and then add another div inside and say there's another div inside of this div that I want you to give this style. And then that's where I'm going to make use of this height. So now the height or the width of this or the height is going to be local height multiplied by or divided by 2. So anything that the local height is, this one should be divided by 2. And then the background color, should be white. Yep. Since that one uses primary color. And then I'm going to set this width, this height to be times 10 or times 5. And then let's see what this looks like. Yeah.
So you actually use divided instead of multiplied.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, man. Thanks, man. All right, so this is it. So what's happening here is that I say this style multiply by 5, so it should be like 5 times, that's 500px. And then I'm saying whatsoever the local height is here, it should be divided by 2. So the local height is 50px, and then divided by 2 is 25px. So that's why this small white thing we're seeing here is just taking this style based on the mathematics that we are doing here with the variables and then using operators, and then we're also using nesting. So this nesting simply means there's a div inside another div. Now, in CSS, we have explained this concept and then we call them combination selectors, right? Where you select an item that is inside of another item or the child item, you can use the parents to fetch it. So let's see how CSS converted this styling for us, right? So if I go back to CSS, I can see, you see now, this guy that is a div inside another one, based on this syntax, this is how CSS styled it for us. So it's just assessing based on that combinator, a div inside of another div, and then it's appending this style onto it, and then it's good to go. So can you see our mathematics now? So first, it set the height to 250 px because we are saying local height times 5, which is 50 times 5, and then that's 250. That's why we have 250 here. And then this one, we said divided by 2. That's local height divided by 2, which is 50 px divided by 2. That's why we have it here as 25 px, right? And then based on the colors we set and the rest. So that's just how to access items, use combination selectors. So these are one of the like simple differences between SASS and your normal CSS. Yeah, someone raising up their hands. Can we proceed? And are we familiar with this first concept? Nice. So we've talked about nesting, and then we've talked about operators. All right. Rufai says like magic on Tuesday, normal. Because we're doing a bunch of theories. But anytime you try something out, you realize that it's so simple, no matter how bulky the technology looks like. All right. So now let's talk about, okay, Fatima, let's hear. So there's something we call partials. Now, partials are used for us to modularize our code or to write them like in smaller chunks so that our code is going to look very easy to read and then very, very understandable by other developers without us chunking like a lot of things together. So to achieve partials in SCSS, we have to create like new files to be able to store like chunks or smaller parts or smaller context of our SAS files. We're going to save them in another file and then import it into like the main SAS file and then be using it there. So anytime I want to make changes, we already know like the main component to go to and change, just like modularizing your code. Like that's just what it means. Now, to be able to achieve that, since SAS has different components like functions, variables, mixins, and the rest of them. So you can create these things in like different partials. And then when you create them inside different partials, you are going to import it like into the main SAS file. And then you can be able to use it within like the components in the SAS files, right? So let's try out something little about these partials and see how they work. So to create a file with partial, if to create a partial file, we are going to start with an underscore. So I just say underscore variables. So I want to store all my variables in here. And then the reason why we are saving this as or starting with an underscore is a convention, simply because it tells the compiler that, hey, don't compile this particular variable's SAS file for me. Because on the compiler is supposed to compile it to another new file called maybe like variable.css. But this time, since we are going to be using variables inside of index, we are telling the compiler using this underscore that, hey, don't compile this guy. This guy is only going to be imported and used inside of index.css, and then it's going to be compiled there. And so that's just the concept around it. So we can choose to like transfer this our global variable that says primary color and just take it out and then paste it inside of variables, and then we still have orange there. So this particular file is not going to be compiled. So we can go back to our file and then we do this. We can just import. So to import, I just say @import, and then I put inside the file location where or which of it I'm talking about. So I just say variables, and then it's a success and I'm good to go. So if I go back, you see I still maintain my color here. And then if I go back to this partial, which is variables, and then I update this color to purple. Yeah, let's have a look. So can you see that's turned back to purple now? So anytime I want to use a variable, anytime I want to create a variable, I'm going to create all of them like inside of this SAS file, right? So that it's not going to keep this main index.css to be very messy. So when maybe I have like 500 or 200 variables, I want to put different colors. So I'm going to try to use it and see how it works, right? I want to insert different colors or different heights. So I just specify all of them in here. And I know that all my variables are here. So if I want to make any changes, I just have to come to that particular location and just tweak it, right? And then I can keep reusing them. And then don't forget the underscore part, just to specify that this guy cannot be, is not going to be compiled at the end of the day, right? So are we good to go? Are we familiar with this concept? So with this, we have understood variables, nesting, and operators with partials. So that's 4 stuffs in SAS, right? So next, we are going to go into mixins and then functions, and then try to reuse them to see how they work, try some different stuffs. But before then, we'll try to build like something very, very minimal or something very simple with SAS. And then if possible, use Tailwind CSS in it just to verify that you can use all of them together, right? And then we'll keep going. So do we still have questions or are we good to go? Let me see your emojis if we are good to go. Okay, so just Fatima Arufai. Okay, nice. Great. All right, so let's proceed. So what do we build now? Let's try to build like a simple page, a simple landing page, and then just try to use some files in it and see how they work. So in this SAS file, I'm going to clear like this whole stuff and then come back to my index.css and then clear it off also. So I don't need anything here. And then I'll just leave the import with the variables and that's it. So I'll try to create something here. And then this is a div. And then this div is a main container of our landing page. And then the landing page is going to hold like 2 separate things, which is another div. So this div is going to have a write-up of, let me call this a H2. And then in this, I'm going to say, welcome to tech community where we learn and grow with each other. Nice. So, and then we're also going to have a button in here. And then this button says get started. So we're going to style this. And then next, inside this div, we are going to have another div. And then what this div is going to have is an image. And then what will be the source to this image? So let's find like, or let's look for like a very nice image and put it there. Okay. So let's take the online link and then use it. So I have it in here and then I'm good to go. So basically that's just what it looks like, right? So a div having this guy. So I'm going to give an ID of main to this div, and then I can be able to start the styling here. So what will happen? I go to index.css. I have variables installed or imported. I'm going to say body. So I'm going to start with the body. Give it a padding of 0, margin of 0. And then I'm going to use the nested inside of this body. And then I'm going to say main. So main is an ID. Then I'm going to specify the main. And then give it a width of 100 px or 100%. And then give it a height of 100 vh. Give it a background color just to see it and to be sure that it exists of aqua. And then watch out. So I check my index, it has boiled down to this and does all the styling for me. And then I can just go back to my file and then I'm good to go. So this is it. And this is what I've started so far. All right, so let's do some more. All right, so let's start with this. And then we have two divs in here, right? So I want to do a particular styling in here. And then I'm going to say, okay, the main, and then I'm going to style the div, which is inside of the main, right? So to be able to make this work out, what I want to do is that I want to set a local variable here for width. And then I'll just say $local width. So that all is going to work with it. Local width. And then I'm going to say 100%. And then I'm styling all the divs in here. So the width here is going to be local width. And then in the div here, and in the div here, I'm going to say width is local width divided by 2. Yeah, so that's just we saying 100% divided by 2. That be divided. Let's see. All right, so let's continue setting designs here for the main. Let's say display of flex. Okay, so I think this doesn't work. So let's use view width. Yeah, and then we are good to go. So what I just did here was to say view width. So we have view height and view width. So this 100% of the total view width, and then this 100% of the total view height. And then I'm saying a div inside of main, which is technically this guy. So if you see, this is the ranking, this is the body, the div. And then in the main, in the div, this is the div that has main, right, as ID. So I'm referring to this guy as main. And then there are 2 divs here. So any style I give this guy, main with div in it, is going to append the style to these 2 guys. So basically that's just what I did. And then I tried to fix this guy. And then I said any div in there or any div inside of a main, it should be the local width. And then the local width is 100 view width divided by 2, which makes it 50 view width. And that's what is going to make it display like side by side to make it like equal, right? That's why you see the size from here to here and the picture from here to here is completely equal, right? And then we are good to go. So currently it's just for us to fit in this image properly into this and then to make it look better. So how many of us are good to go? Questions? Yeah, Rufai, let me hear you.
Yeah, why doing the division stuff? You didn't input the operator and it worked. Like, can you work that way also?
How? I don't get you.
I look at it. Yeah, as in when you were explaining, you said you were going to put this thing, something like operator, where you indicated addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But you didn't do that here,
Yeah.
and that worked. That was why I'm asking that. Is it compulsory or is not compulsory to input it before it's going to work?
I actually used an operator here. Can you notice? This is an operator. Rufai, can you see this?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That you used an operator, but you didn't indicate it at the top, like how you did it when you're explaining in the first place. You did.
Did I indicate?
Yes, when you're explaining where you put operator, then the brackets, addition, subtraction, and everything like that.
Oh my God! Oh! I'm so sorry. See, that thing is what we call commenting. I'm just commenting. It doesn't read the code. It's just like writing normal text. It's commenting. So I just wanted to explain. That's why I did that stuff. Like the CSS file
Okay, sir.
doesn't even know
Yeah,
about
thank you,
it.
sir.
Yeah, so go and read properly about comments and understand how they work, right? So when you see anything that has or that is highlighted in green like this, or has like 2 double slash in front of it, just know that is a comment. So there are different ways to write comments, but the compiler doesn't read it at all. Doesn't read it. Yeah. So are we good to go? All right, so let's proceed. So I've done this, and then this is the final outlook of what it looks like. So I can choose to style this text properly or pick a better background color. This aqua, we can just pick orange as our background color. Yeah, and then go. So let's try to style the button inside of this div. So we can just give the div a particular name. Yeah, or just style it separately. So let's give the div a particular name, right? So let's give it an ID. And then let's call it main1. And then call this main2. All right, so back to call this main1. And then head over here. And then add a style for the button inside of main1. Right? That's nesting for us, the power of nesting. So I can just give this a padding of 10px. Let's just try 10px and see, give it a color or a background color of white. And then let's check how it looks like. Okay, so that's our button. And then we can give it a border of none. We can give it a border radius. Yeah. And then the main itself, I can choose to give it a padding. .px, and then I have my padding there. I can choose to arrange the text inside of H1, inside of M1, which is this particular text, right? This H2 here. So I can just come here and then style it. Let's say H2. Then probably give it some, like some particular color. Can say can choose this, and then it becomes 45px, which is having it better, right? And then my page is looking much better now. let's say I can just change the color here of this H2 and then say slate. No, that doesn't look. I'll just choose to maintain the black. Yeah. So next, let's fit in this text or let's try to fit this guy in properly. So let's set up this main. And then probably we can set a display here of flex. And then say flex direction column. Now we have it in the column. And then I can set this button to say margin auto. Oh, what's happening? Oh, so okay. So everything has come back to the middle. So I can just say margin. Okay. So I make this 0 and then I make this auto. And yeah, I'm good to go. So I have it in the middle. Okay, so I'll just do the margin left. Yeah. Okay, so this should fix it. And then I'm good to go. So I just say justify content center. So I want everything to like be in the center. Maybe like, yeah, much better here for me. And then I want this image too to come down a little or to fill in like the whole page. So how do we make the image fill the whole page? So I go to the SASS file. Then I have this particular div, right? That says the name is main2. So let me copy it and then go here. And then main2 is inside of main. So I'll just come down and then style it. Then I can work with the background attachment and say, now should I make it fixed or inherit? So let me try to like style the image inside of this. So who can style an image using CSS? How can we have this image full? What is the command to put in there? I've actually forgotten to do that. Who can remind me in the class?
You make width 100%, max width.
So if I make the max width 100%. Yeah, so that's the max width. It's 100% initially. So how about the height? I'll do the same. I thought there's a way they do it, and they just say content, and then they just say fit or something like that.
Yes, object fit, cover, that kind of stuff, or contain.
Yes, that's why I forgot. So this guy doesn't even take effect. So if I want to style that, I think I have to do it in like the main component, right?
No, it's actually the image. It will take the container, the size of the container. Even that with 100% is also necessary. I think so.
Okay, so let's do that. So we have a div inside of main2, and then inside the div there's an image, and then we want the image to have. Okay, so in the container we just say object fit, right? And then we say cover. Try
It's
this
in the
out.
image. The image actually. I think so.
Okay. No, CSS can be tricky. So it says no. I think it should be here. Contain. Now let's try to set the width and the height. Let's fit the content. What does this even mean? I don't know. Hello, yeah.
Okay, sir. I think that object fit supposed to be in the image, and the max
So
width.
let's see.
There is nothing. The height is not really necessary there. Just the width and the object fit. Then kind of you also make it a display block so that it will remove unnecessary gaps under the image or under or top of the image, so that you take the
So
appropriate image.
where do we make it block? Is it a div that will be block?
Yeah, no, the image. And again, we need to track the width of the div, because the image is actually taking the width of the div.
Yeah, so what will
So
happen is that we can inherit it.
there's no.
So we can just inherit it. And then we call this guy up. So let's make this
I
guy
don't know.
flex too. Yeah. So we are almost there. I think making this guy flex just made it like very open. Block. Oh, okay.
Let's try this object fit cover in that image.
All right. The style has says no. So let's set width here and see something. Oh, I see my mistakes. Okay, no, it's solved. I think I'll do this myself. Are you sure this issue is not from the image itself? But it's not making any change at all.
The image, if you say the image a mark fit of 100%, an object of cover or fit, it will actually take the width of the parent container. Then maybe it will still maintain the aspect ratio, like it will not stretch by height, but it will actually maintain the actual width of the parent container.
Yeah, but I've said that, and then the parent container hasn't changed. And the parent container is all inheriting, which it marks the width, which is this local size divided by 2. So
Okay,
this
the thing
particular
is,
width.
let's try putting border to the parent container to know actually where it stop and where it
Yeah,
can stop.
good. I'm not even seeing the border. Let's check it out now. Oh, yeah, on my own mistake. Yeah, so you were correct all along, and we're doing the right thing. But the problem is I was trying to access like the wrong elements. So I was trying to access a div and then image inside. Meanwhile, the image was inside of main2, right? So I gave you object fit of cover, max fit of 100%, and then I have the image here of this guy saying, welcome to FiTech community where you learn and grow with each other, and then get started if you want to get started with us. Right? So this is like a simple page styled with SCSS. And then, yeah. So we can check in the index of CSS now and see how all the stylings were done. So this is your normal CSS that you know. Can you see? It just went down, broke it down into smaller CSS for we to understand properly what's happening, so that the browser is going to understand the code we wrote, and also so that this guy will also understand. So let's say we have variables now for our background color. So our app is going to have like maybe some certain colors that it shares with one another. So I'm going to like set up these colors. So make like orange color, set up this black color so that we can be using it for text, and then set up the get started, right? So we can do all those. All right. So let's now we have created a variable partial. So and then we want to set like different colors here. So my primary color, I want it to be orange. I want my secondary color to be white. Then I want my text color. So I want my text color to be black. Nice. So let's fit this in properly so that we can be able to make use of it, right? And then remember what I told you about the underscore, right? So why do I need an underscore before creating this SCSS file? Why do I need an underscore before the name? So somebody should attempt before I proceed. So I know we're together. Or I'll pick someone or somebody will volunteer.
It is a partial, so that is how we denote partial by underscores. And then we don't want our file to be messy, so we just import it to use it instead of leaving it in the index file and making it mess.
Yeah, so all what you said is correct, but I'm interested in one thing. Why did I use the underscore? Yeah, over at Chuku. Let me hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Kind of putting underscore there. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a kind of telling CSS that this is also a part of our style.scss files. That anything that we write here will also appear there, something like that. I don't know the word that we use to explain it, but
Yeah,
it's
good,
just
good.
telling
You
you that this
understand
is
it.
a part of our styles. That is the underscore.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get the concept, but you just don't know how to like explain it properly. I understand you. So someone should try. I want to hear that stuff from you people. You're always raising up their hands. Rufai, shoot.
I said so that it won't compile all those files together.
Nice, 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 nice. That's what I was looking for. So let me give you my applaud, right? Yeah. So basically that's what it means. Simply put, we don't want CSS to compile it at all. We don't want it to compile it. All we want it to do is that it should, since it is already visible, since we are using it inside of the main file, so why do you want to compile it again into another CSS? So like I explained, when you create a new file, index.css, and then you finish writing your style, and then you click on watch, it compiles it down to these two files, right? The map file and then the CSS file, which is the real file that you import into your HTML. And then you get the styling, right? So that's what it does. But these variables, I don't want it to compile into this because I want to use this variable inside this guy. And then I'm importing these variables like this. And then I'm saying anything inside variables, I want to use them inside of here instead of compiling them. So that's why I'm using the underscore, right? So that it can be used here. So I can just come and change my color here to primary color. Set primary color here. I can set my background color to secondary color. And then let's check it out. So can you see, I'm still maintaining the same colors. Like there are no changes at all. It's still the same thing that I'm doing that is still there, right? So with this, I'm good to go. So there should be questions. So I'm going to take questions from you guys now before I'm going to take mixins, functions, and the rest. So let's hear from you while I go to take water. But I'm putting on my headphones so I can hear what you guys are saying. So proceed to ask your questions. All right, so shoot, who's raising up your hand? So everybody's clear and everyone is good to go, right? Hello, the class is quiet and dull today. It's like we don't like this SASS of a thing. So let's proceed since we don't have anything to say. We can also set like different sizes, maybe text size. So maybe this particular text size that I used here. Yeah, for this H2, that's a font size 45. So I can just change it. So inside of variables, I can declare another style that's a text small. So it's just a small text now I want to declare. And then I can just call the particular size I want to give, maybe 45px. Or let's say text large. Right? And then I made it 45px. So I can come here and change it in this file since I have all the variables, and then say it is text large. And then if I come back here, I see maintain 45px. So I can go to this button and probably try to set up a text so that you can see how large it's going to be. And then I put text size, text large here to edit it. So can you see? Now the text is larger and it looks very big. So it's apparently the same size of this guy to the same guy simply because they are sharing the same variable. So instead of that, let me just create like a smaller text and then call it in the variable. It should be like text small. And then I'm going to say this is 20px. Yeah. So let's head over here and use it. And then let's say text small. And then check out. So it's back smaller to 20px. So you can choose to set whatsoever you want to set for it and then be able to make use of it, right? So with that, we are good to go. So next, we are going to introduce another concept, which is nesting. Functions. Now, I want us to talk a little about functions and then try to make use of functions. If possible, make use of control flows and then keep going, right? So let's try functions and then how do functions work? So first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, what are functions? Right? So what are functions? So functions allows us to create, or functions are piece of code that allow us to create reusable pieces of code or logic that returns a particular value. So in the last class, like I told you, I say a function runs a specific task and then returns back information based on the data given to it. Right? A function can aid and streamline things like dynamic calculations and manipulation of values, right? So in SASS, there's what we call built-in functions. And then I explained this in the last class, right? So built-in functions are functions that SASS gives us directly from there, right? From there, it gives us their own functions. And then there are functions that help us do like a little manipulations, right? So let's try some SASS built-in functions and see how they work. So let me change this one's color. So I didn't set it. So the color is text color, right? Yeah, and then it's still going to maintain black because it's black color initially. Okay. So what is going to happen here is that I want to use an inbuilt color or an inbuilt style or an inbuilt function given to me by SASS. And then the function I want to use is lighting. And the lighting works on color, right? Or on a background color. So on this particular secondary color, which is white, or on this primary color, I can choose to like lighten it, right? So all I just have to do is call the function, which is lighting. This is it. And then I'm going to select the color and then input an amount for it. So for the color, I'm going to say primary color. So cut off this whole color and then paste it in here. And then the last one, I'm going to say 20%. So let's see what this looks like. So can you see? It just reduced the background opacity and then made it 20% lighter. So you just made it 20% a bit lighter, right? I can make it like 90%. Now let's see. Now you see, this is like white. We can choose to make it 50. Let's see, be pale. Okay. I think it doesn't go beyond that. Let's try 10. Yeah, much better. And then 20. Yeah. Let's also try 5. See what it looks like. So that's just what the lighting does, right? It just makes it a bit lighter. And then this is an inbuilt function given to us by scripts or by SASS, right? But we now ourselves, we can choose to like create our own function by ourselves. Like take for example, this width that says local width divided by 2. We can be able to create our own function that does this, right? So how can we create our function that does this? Let's try to create a function and then try to see how it will work, right? So to create a function, this is how I do it. I just say at function, right? And then I'm going to call the function, which is calculate width. So I want the function to calculate width for me dynamically so that I don't always have to do local width divided by 2. So take for example, I always want to use this function somewhere. All I just have to do is just call the function there and then pass in the parameters I want. And then it's going to make it like all the changes for me. So I want this calculate to collect like 2 values, which is the parent length is going to collect the parent length, and then it's going to, yeah, so let me change it. Let's just say multiply width by 2. So multiply width by 2 is the name of this function. And then it only accepts the parent length, and then what it does is that it says parent length. So it returns parent length from parent length times 2. Times 2, right? Times 2, and then we are good to go. So instead of doing this guy, instead of doing local width divided by 2, what we are going to do here is what we'll just say multiply more by 2, and then passing the parameter or the arguments inside for it to make use of, and then we'll say passing local width. So it's going to do the same thing, which is local width divided by 2, which is the same thing that is happening here, right? If I pass in a different width for it, let's say 200, it's going to do 200 divided by 2. And then our style is going to look like some kind of way that we don't understand. But for now, I just want to use this one, and what I'm passing is local width, which is like 100 view width, and then it's dividing it by 2 to give us 50-50 view width on each side. And with that, we are good to go with creating functions, right? So it's that easy. Who doesn't understand the concept of functions, please lay your complaints now so I can be able to treat as urgent. Here, Rufai.
Yes, sorry, sir. Can you please explain again, please?
All right, so I say functions in programming or in SASS are just set of code or tasks that perform a particular task and returns a value. So what's happening here is that we have this particular code, and then this code is a task. This code has a task to do. And what is the task of this code? The task of this code is to correct a length, which is called parent length. And then once this length is being passed to this width or to this function, it is going to return the multiplication of this by 2. So anything I pass into this function will be multiplied by 2. If I pass 10, it will give me 20. If I pass 50, it will give me 100, like that. And then the idea is to use it here. Oh, so it's supposed to be like division. Yeah, that's why we didn't see the effects more. So let me fix this. So this is a division function, and then we want it to divide any length we give it by 2. So I just run the command here. So I want this function called divide by 2 to return anything passing here as parent divided by 2. So I now call the function here, and then I want to calculate the width. So a width can be a number, right? At the end of the day. So at the end of the day, this function is going to run and it's going to return a number for me. And that's why, and then any number that this function returns is what I'm going to set as the width. So that's why I'm passing local width to this number. And then if I pass local width here, it's going to divide local width by 2. Now, what is local width? Local width is 100 view height. 100 view height divided by 2 is what? 50. And that's where I get 50. And it divides this for me into 2 in that particular function. And I'm good to go. So do you understand the concept now? Okay. So let's just try to build like something larger or make this a bit robust. Then we are going to come back to using mixing and then use control flow also, so that it's going to work out. So we also have other concepts like inheritance and mixing. So I think the only thing remaining now is mixing and inheritance. So we've treated functions. So we can also try to make this function modular. So how can we make function modular? Because if you put like a lot of function here, it's going to be like messy. So let's see how we can do that. Is this going to work? So we can create maybe another new file here, call it underscore functions. And then all our functions are going to be inside here. And then I come back here and then I copy this function by root. Right? And then I go to functions and then I paste it. Good to go. So if I go back, this doesn't fit in well. This take more size than this one. And then both of them are supposed to take 50-50. So to be able to do that, I just have to come back here and then import this guy here. So I'll just say add import. And then I'll import functions. So functions is imported. Now notice they are both 50-50%. So this is 50 view height, this is 50 view height. But initially this one was much smaller, right? But the fixing or the function made it bigger. So if we want to write our functions, we can just write our function inside of here with partials. And then if we want to write our variables, we can always highlight our variables in here. And then anything we want to use, we can make use of them in here. And then at the end of the day, we can next our variables or our files. And after we next them, we can use the variables inside. At the end of the day, this is going to compile into index.css and index.css.map. So our index.css is what holds our code, and then this is our conversion of our SCSS down to CSS, simply because the CSS or the HTML file doesn't understand SCSS. So it has to compile down to CSS first, and then we have all this installed. So that's just the concept for now, and then let's keep on going as we introduce them. So what I'm mixing, which is the next thing we are going to work with now. Mixins, let me define it in here. So we can see, so this is just a comment. So this is it. So what are mixins? Yeah, so can anyone try? Has anyone checked it out before? It's a very nice concept that we are going to enjoy, right? Or nobody has tried mixing out.
We have, sir. We have.
Okay, just a few, I
There are
guess.
set, and there are just set of codes that you can put and reuse them later in your styling.
Yeah, so you can just, they are just chunk of codes that can be reusable. So take, for example, I have some codes that I don't want them to keep repeating themselves. Like me always setting width everywhere. So I can always fix that, right? And then the width that I set in a particular mixing, I can keep using, like calling it, and then it's going to be including that style for me wheresoever I want it to, or wheresoever I did like the inclusion. So let's continue. So it can be included in different selectors. So these are the different selectors. So like we have button, we have main. So all I can just do is create one particular mixing, and then that mixing I can keep reusing it like anywhere I want, right? So to create a mixing, I use at mixing. We use this at mixing. And then let's say we want to set like a let's say I want to set like a border radius. So you can just say border radius. So I think we set a border radius for like this guy, right? For the button. Yeah, so maybe we'll come fix it. So we set border radius, and then this is the mixing. And then it sets a parameter. So it's just like a function. But it's just that this one doesn't repeat, or it doesn't return anything. What it just does is that it just imports like the whole code inside. So this is the particular radius I want. And then I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to set in my style in here. And then I'll say, hey, it's the border radius I want to fix. And then the border radius should be any radius that the person fixed inside. Yeah, so let's work with it this way. So instead of this guy, let's call like the mixing in here. So to call a mixing, I'll just go to, yeah, so this is where we use the border radius. So I can just come here and say include and use this at include. So I include now what is the name of the mixing, border radius, and then I pass the radius inside. So all I just have to do is say border radius 25 px, and then I'm going to take this one out, and then we are not going to notice any difference at all in our code. It still remains the same thing. So if I want to fix the border radius, I can just say maybe like 40 px. So it can work in such a way whereby I have like two buttons. Maybe I have two buttons in here, and then I want one to have a border radius of 25 px. The other one should have the border radius of like 40 px or 50 px. So let's add up another button. And then maybe let's do it this way. Let's say, what are you waiting for? Or not interested? But who will not be interested in a program like this? Okay, let's just make use of not interested. There you go. So here's a not interested button. And then I want to fix like the style. So I'm going to give this particular not interested an ID and call it B2. And then I try to come back to this index and then try to style it and say option. And then now I can set the border radius. Now I can just say at include. And then I say border radius. And then this time around, I'll just set this one to 0 px. So this one doesn't have any border radius. Now watch out. Can you see? The border radius here has turned to 0. I can fix it here and say maybe like 10. And you see it's rounded, but not as rounded as this guy. And then I can make it like 25 px, right? And then it's back the same way to how this guy looks like. And with that, I am good to go. And then I have successfully explained the concept of mixing. So that's how we make it work with mixing. So, yeah, question.
Sir, so it means that mixins uses arguments from what you just did.
Yeah, it depends. You can use arguments. You can also not use arguments, right? So if I want it to be dynamic, that's where I use arguments. So I want it to be such a way that I can always change my border radius depending on what I pass to the mixing. It should set the border radius. And then I can do it in such a way whereby the mixing is going to hold like one particular border radius. And no matter where I use it, it's going to be like the same border radius. You get the point? Nice. So let's try to make our mixing to be what now? Let's make it to be modular. So let's create a partial and then let's call it mixing. So all our mixings will always go here. And then let's go here and then copy the whole mixing out. And then it's giving me an error, and then I'll just paste it inside of this mixing. And with this, I'm good to go. And if I go to yeah, here, and then I just import it. So I will advise you guys to like understand this concept. If not, when you get to like this thing, you have a lot of issues programming. So try to understand this concept, and then I'll just, if you get to programming, it will be way easier for you. Importation and the rest of them. So you see, it takes up like the same style. So what will happen is I will out the last button because I don't need it. And I'm out of there. And then there you go. Everywhere fresh and clean. So that's all for mixing, right? So the next now is inheritance. So we'll see how we can inherit styles and then like try to do something. And then probably at the end of the day, we are going to end the class with control flow. So we might keep styling and then try out different stuff to make like this page much more better. Yeah, so let's try out the inheritance now and see how it works. So first and foremost, let's know what inheritance is and then why we are making use of them. So you can use inheritance to extend or to share styles between selectors using the extend derivative. So I can use it to extend like particular styles between different derivatives. So take for example, let's write a particular code and then let's make it to be used by different components, right? So I'll just do that here. And then I'll call this inheritance. So let's just see how it works. Right, so if I want to create a particular one that I can be able to extend, all I just have to do is put this the percentage sign in front, and then I'm going to give it a particular width or a size. So let's say this, I'm going to call it message, and then this is how I want the message to look like. Or I'm going to call it border. And then this is what I want it to look like. And then I want it to have a padding, or let's say no padding for now. I just want it to have a border of 2px purple. So just to use some weird color or solid purple. Yeah, so let's just put it that way. Solid. Awesome. So I want to reuse this in other places. So let's say I want to try to use this in the button. I'll just head over to the button and then say, and then just try to extend it here, right? And then all I just have to do is add extend. And then I call it inside, which is this. And then I say border. And I'm good to go. So, oh, why can't I see this? Did I try to use border? Oh, I said border none here. So it's currently making use of border none. So that is the issue why. So I've not set like a width or a height, so I can just use a width to be able to manipulate it. So, or I can choose to take out the border here. So if I comment it out, I can be able to like access it. So you see it has given it a purple border now, right? Now I can extend this style not only to this guy, but I can extend this style to this particular box, right? And then those particular text, I want it to have that extension. So I can just copy and then go to that H2 and then extend the style there. And then let's check it out. So can you see this one too has inherited the border and it looks like this. And then I can choose to manipulate this. So basically that's just like the little concept about inheritance and then what inheritance looks like. So you can extend certain variables into like different other components and then use them. So I'm taking your questions currently before I proceed to use control flow. Yeah, question. Yeah, can you ask your question, please?
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My question is, can you explain more about the use of systems at use and at import? Like, can you differentiate between both of them and when to use them? When
At
to use
what?
any of them? At
Which
use
of them
and at import.
at use?
I guess they do the same work, but I'm a little bit confused. Like in SCSS, if you want to import a file or a file in another file, either you use
Yeah,
at use or at import, but you know.
yeah. So it's basically the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, all this, yeah, the same thing.
Okay.
All right, so let's try to work with control flow. So, and then how I want to use control flow is let's create another new partial and then call this inheritance. And then anything you want to be inherited by another one, you can just do it here. Inherit. Yeah, let's just leave it this way, right? And then come here and then pick out this code, paste it in here. Mm. And then I'll be back here and then I will import it. So I said I import inheritance. Yeah, so if I check back, I will still notice that it's the same thing, right? It's still inheriting all the stuffs. I just use partials to make it modular. So let's try to use if else statement to be able to change this particular control flow. So let's say the whole background, it is this color of primary color, and our primary color is orange, and I want to make this an if else statement. So I have a theme, and then my theme is that my background is either white or black, right? So if my background is in the light mode, I want it to show maybe a black color. But then if it's in light mode, I want it to show the orange color, right? So how do I do that? So let's just head over and try this out. So I'll just I will just take out this background color. I don't need it. And then I will just do the if else statement here to toggle the main, starting with @if. And then I'll use the $sign and then say team. So now I don't have team currently. So I have to create a team inside of my variables. And then I'll just say team and then say dark. Then I'll just say dark. Okay, so I set a team to dark, and then I'm back to my index.css. And then I say if team equals to dark. So that means if the team the user selected is a dark team, I want the background color to be lighten it. No. So I want to use, okay, so I want the background color to be black. And then I want the text color. So background color being black means it is primary, it is secondary, right? So yeah, no, text color. It means it is text color. Nice. So, and then I can choose the text color now to be my primary color. So what will just happen is I'll just say color should be $primary. Yeah, and then I'm good to go. And then I say else. That is if it is not this guy, if it's not dark, that means it's another thing, right? So I'll just say else. And then I'll say the background color should be like this same color that I have here. So let me take this out. And then I want to display this conditionally, right? So I put this one here and I uncomment it. So it should be this color. Yeah. Yeah, so let's try it out. So currently the theme is dark, right? So that means this color should be black. That's technically what it means. And then I have this black. So let's say we have a toggle somewhere, and then somehow inside of these variables, I change the theme and I say the theme should be light. And now it's no longer dark. Now when I'm back, you see it maintains my previous color, right? Without having to go and change it and do some stuff. So with the control flow, I was able to handle that and then specify how I want my variables to look like. Yeah, so that's just how to work with this for now. So I'm giving room for questions before we are going to continue using this pattern to build like the remaining of this page. And then let's see how everything is gonna go. Questions, please. All right, shoot.
Sorry, sir. Like, while trying to explain the control flow, I lost my network. So I don't know whether you can just quickly recap, please.
Okay, so like the control flow like determines maybe how a particular style is going to look like, or how a particular component is going to look like at a particular time, or based on a particular style. So we use the control flow this time around in here, and then we set it inside of our main, and then the main has a background color, right? and the background color at default is this color, which is lighting primary color, made it 5%, right? So we are saying that if theme, and then theme is a variable that we set inside here called light. But then we are saying if theme is dark, it should set the background color to text color. And then text color is black color. So if you go to variables and you check text color, you are going to see black there, right? So we are telling it if the background theme is dark, it should turn it to black. But if the background theme is light, it should still maintain primary color, which makes it orange. So here I set it to light, and that's why when I'm running the control flow here, it checks that, okay, the theme is not light. The theme is currently, no, the theme is not dark. The theme is currently light. So that means it's not going to run this one. It's going to run the S block, which is setting the color to primary color, which is technically orange color. And that's why we have an orange color here. But if I change this theme, which is in variables, and then I change this theme to dark, and if I change theme to dark and then I come back here, you are going to notice that it fits the condition that says this guy, if theme is equals to dark. So now theme is dark, and then it's going to set the background color to text color, and text color is black. So let's see. So can you see our background color has changed to black without having to do some changes. So let's see in our index.css what this particular style looks like. So currently it's appending black to it. And then if you switch, it will turn back to append another different color. So it just keeps compiling, right? Based on the particular flow or the particular parameters being passed to it. So I'm taking questions. And then if you are clear, fine. Are you clear with this? And you understand the concept of control flow now?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, cool. Yeah, okay. So can I proceed? We have talked like virtually like all the basic concepts that we can look towards here. So I think the best thing now is just to continue styling our file and then make it look better, right? Try to use some particular imports and try to fix some things just to see how it's going to work, right? So yeah, okay. So let's keep going. So let's continue styling this, and then what's going to happen now? Aside the main body, I'm going to create another div, and then I want to call this ID of session 1. So I just want to style this. So let me go back here, and then it's not inside of main. So I can just come here and say session 1. and then I'm good to go. So I want to abstract some style, which is inside of main, and then make it a global style. And then I can be able to use it anywhere, right? The style I want to set is the local width. Yeah, the local width and the local, the local width and the height. So now I want to make them global, right? So how can we fix that? So I think we can try using that in global variable, making a local variable global. Let's see whether it's going to work this time around. Just to try and just to experiment. Yeah, so how do we do that? We can do it using the global flag, and then I think we can just do that here and say local width, made it 100%, and then we can just use this and say global. So let's see whether we can make use of this inside of another place, right? So let's fix it here. And then we'll say width. Width should be local width, right? So let's try to set up the height. So I'll also make this height a local variable. So let me also do this and say local height. And then it's also 100 VH, right? And then I'll make it global. Close this and then take it out here and call it local height. All right, so these two have been set. So I want to replicate the same thing here. Now what will happen here is I'm going to say local height. So I'm going to say height now. And then I'll say local height. Nice. So, and then I can choose to set a background color here. And then I can choose to say the background color is text color. Because on default is white. So let's say text color now. And then let's watch out. So let's change this back to let's change this back to light because I still want to maintain that color. And then what's happening? Oh, so I think probably I haven't set this well. Okay, so it's session -1. So here it should be session -1. And then I'm good to go. So you can see it inherited the same width, and then it has made it global now. And then the width is 100%, and then this height here also is 100 view height. So that makes it copy the same width and height that this guy has, right? To be able to implement it here. So we have successfully made a local variable global and then seen the context of how to do something like that. So you see the simple reason, simply because we didn't like want to stress ourselves from like going to rename it into a global variable and the rest, right? All I just have to do is declare the global flag, and then I am good to go. So, are we still having issues? Everybody is understanding the whole concept? If you are understanding the whole concept, you can choose to like tell me a little about what you have learned so that I will know that we are all together, and then I can proceed with, let's say, let's use flex, grid. Let's just try to style this and make it look better. So let me take out this border. I think I don't like that mixing. Yeah. Comment this and then I'll say border none. And then do that here too. Comment it here. Yeah, and then I'm good to go. Have this, which I'm okay with. So somebody should just try to explain to me, let's say 2 people, tell me what they have learned so far and then how they feel SCSS is much better than Tailwind. So I'm waiting. Hello guys. I think I'll point someone, right? Should I point? Yeah, so Tybert, tell me what you've learned so far. Hello. Please signify with an emoji, let me know we're together. Am I the only one on this call? Or everyone is avoiding questions? All right. Yeah, fine.
Yeah. So actually, I've learned a lot today because Tuesday class was like magic, as I said earlier. Like I was just thinking, what's this? But starting from the practical you've done today, so it has been easier. But currently, now I still prefer using Tailwind CSS than this SAS. To me, I still prefer using Tailwind CSS because it's something I like. Currently, is what I prefer. I prefer using Tailwind now to CSS and to SCSS. Thank you.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, let's hear from you.
Okay. Actually, it is an interesting session because I think from Tuesday we established the fact that SCSS mostly is used for very complex projects, and then I can see the reason why. If from today's class I could depict that our index.xcss file is looking very clean and precise because there are a lot of things that just goes to the output, that is the styles.css file, and then your index is kept neat. And then if you want precision, like the flexibility of your styling, I think SCSS will give you the more you explore many things. And then, so for me, I would prefer SCSS from Tailwind. Yeah.
Wow, I think you are the only dev that will support SCSS. Okay, but it's nice that we have like two opinions here, right? So one mistake that we made was to teach you guys Tailwind before SCSS. We should have taught SCSS before Tailwind. Now with that, you will have appreciated SCSS more. But Tailwind makes your life easier. Like I, for one, love using not like love using Tailwind CSS always. But that doesn't mean that SCSS is not great. It's great because it has its power and its capabilities. As you can see, the way I'm modularizing my code, the way I'm making it reusable, I can easily come and change stuffs within my code, right? So if you have certain things that are complex and you want to manage them properly, maybe let's say you want to do some complex transformations, transitions, some animations, you can use SCSS to achieve that, right? And then you inject it into your code. Because using Tailwind for animation, have you tried it? It's there, right? And it works, but it's not fun. It's just like some inbuilt animation that they write for you, and it's not fun in itself, right? But you creating your own animations and then injecting it into your files is more fun and it's more sweeter, right? So that's the beauty of programming. So I think both languages, they give a perfect, like if you use them together, it's going to make like perfect sense other than using one and leaving the other one. Understand the power of both and then pick any one that you would like to use. Nice. So the ladies, no one has spoke today. Let's hear from Fatima. Fatima, what's up? How's it going? Which one do you prefer? SCSS, CSS, or do you just like writing your normal CSS and you are good to go? Yo, Fatima. Nice. Tybat wants to save the girls. Let's hear from you.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Tybat.
Okay. For me, because I know it's bad, though my network has been fluctuating in between class, so but for now, after studying SCSS and doing some practical share, but for now, and though SCSS is quite flexible, though, for now, I'll still work with doing or the regular CSS. Thank you.
Okay, so you will go with Tailwind.
Yes, for now. Maybe after practice
Ah,
properly.
okay, nice. So I will
Yeah.
advise you try SCSS yourself and then check out all the stuff. Then you make your final decision since you are still in the valley of decision now. All right. So what do we do? Let's just keep on styling and then use the remaining 30 minutes to establish some certain points with SASS. Oh, we can use like the popular flex, the popular grid, to build some stuffs. Yeah, Rufai, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I said that for now, say talking about the animations that you mentioned earlier, I still
Yeah.
prefer I still prefer using the native CSS, even to Tailwind.
Yeah. Yes. So me myself, when I want to do animation, right, I do it in normal CSS, and then I link it to my file, and then I just give it an ID, and then it works. So using all those things, you have to understand their power to be able to enjoy using them. But somebody who is trying to do like animation in Tailwind CSS might not be able to achieve like what somebody using the CSS itself is being able to achieve. Because you using the normal CSS, you have every power to manipulate anything. But then the CSS is just giving you the Tailwind is just giving you limitations to like a few stuff that you can manage and handle, and then you are good to go. So that's just what's happening at the moment. Yeah, Jeto.
Yes, in general, I just want to get clarity on something. So I noticed that the major difference, if I'm not mistaken, between partials and variables is that the variables are being compiled while partials are not compiled. Is that their major difference?
No. You can't compare partials and variables like the main file itself.
Okay.
So this variable is a partial. So all these ones that start with underscore, they are partials. But
Yes.
then the main file doesn't start with an underscore. So why we are using the underscore is just so that, hey, we are, at the end of the day, all these guys, we are importing them inside here. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we are
Yeah.
still using the code inside here. So why should it compile it again? So that's why we're saying, don't compile this guy. The code is already here. So compile only this guy. So if it compiles only this guy, it will still have the code of these ones inside of it. So that's just like a major difference between the two.
Yeah. All right. I understand. Thank you.
Awesome. Nice. So more question, think through. We still have time to talk about this. All right, so let's get going. Yeah, so let's try to style this, or let's make this look proper. So there's the session, and then we're going to create like, and then I want to style this. So you see, I can also choose to do my mathematics here, and then I can say width. Since I know that the width of this is still local width, and then I'll call the function that did the mathematics for me the last time. dividing it for me by 2, but instead I want to divide it by 3, so I can just do it myself and say local width. Oh yeah, local width divided by 2. And then here I say height, I inherit it. And then I say back color or a background color. I say text, no, secondary. Yeah, so that should give us like a white background. Yeah. So there you go. And then I have this divided into 4. Yeah. So let's fix this properly. Now, instead of saying divided by 2, since we have 3 divs there, I want to divide it by 3. And then, yeah, that should keep me going in just one single file. Okay. Okay. So this divided by 3, and it's showing for only 1, which I have 3 different divs there. Oh, so that's simply because here I haven't set a display and call it flex. Yeah, so that's a simple reading. And then I'm good to go. So I have like all the 3 whites here. I can choose to know if I set like a gap between them. Then I might just say gap and say 20px. Yeah, and then I have 20px gap between like any of them. And then I can just say padding of 20px too. Okay. Yeah, so let's just say I want to make it this way. Better. Nothing serious, just simple and casual to just make my page look this way, right? So let's try to add more stuff. Maybe like add pictures into it. Yeah, and then do some styling. Or let's say we want to do like a particular color pattern there. All right, so let's add an image. Or we can cut down the height and say local height divided by 2. And then can we see now the height is divided by 2, right? And then we can choose to put like other colors here or other different stuff. It depends what we want to do. But then for now, I will just work with this, right? And then probably I might add one file here Just to think of some designs from my head, right? And then try it out. Okay, so this one is because it's not wrapping, so we can just try to wrap. So let's do a flex wrap now. This guy. So we say flex wrap, and then we say wrap. And then watch out. Oh, why is this guy going down? Instead of this one. Let me try to do some math here. Okay, so now I can't see anything. Okay, so what we are going to do to fix this is that we'll do it from here, the SASS file itself. And then create a div here. And then supply these guys in there. So this will be and then I can choose to start the text here, and then I will just say H4, or is it an H4 there? Yeah, so let me change this color to white. So I want the color of this H4. And then I want to make a white color so that I can spot where is it. Oh, so I really can't see it now. So, okay. So let's set the flex direction here. Then column. Yeah, so I'm beginning to see this guy. So I think the last thing would be to make this guy flex too. Yeah. Okay, so let me just remove this height. And then instead is this guy I'll be dividing by 2. Okay. Now I'll take it back here. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to see. That this guy is showing here. Let me take out all this padding. Take it out. And then what will happen is I'll just put a margin in them. Yeah, and then each one will do it respectively, right? Yeah, so I'm good to go. And I've set that. So I can set this H4 and then set the text size. So if I input the text size or font size, yeah. So remember I have a large font here in my variables, and then I can choose to call it text large. So back here, I can just say text dash large and put the $sign to specify that this is a variable. And then this is what I have. And then I can choose to like set the size and then text align, and then I want it to be in the center. And then here's my text at the center. So this is just to make this page like a little better, and then to try to use SCSS with this, right? And then that doesn't mean I can't use CSS. So imagine I want to use like Tailwind CSS in here. What will I just do now? I just have to like import the CSS color, right? So take, for example, I might just get the CDN or the script file from, let me check this Tailwind guy and then copy the script, right? So I can just bring it back here and then import it inside my SASS.html, paste it, and then I can continue styling. So I can choose to change my text color, and then I'll just change this color and say class, GB text dash color, text dash purple, hash 400 just to give you a shade of purple, right? And then I can scroll down here. Oh, why hasn't this changed? So I think purple is not a color. Yeah. So let's try red. Oh no. Something's happening. It has picked the CSS style, but it doesn't want to append the color for me. And why is that? So let me take this script to the bottom of this link. Oh, I've set a color. That's why. So let's try to set like a background color. Okay, no. Let's try to set a background color for this, only this div. That's this middle div. So I've set a color for this H4. That's why it's conflicting. So you can't switch it. So if I want to set a color for this div, I'll just say BG dash. So I want to make this guy purple. I will just say purple 400 to make it have a purple color. I know this guy is supposed to work. Okay, so we also set a style there. Yeah, we set the color there. That's why. So let me do this. Yeah, and then I'm supposed to have a text inside here. Wow, so this is no longer loading my file safe. That's serious. Let me take this script out and see something. Yeah, so I really don't know why I can't seem to see my changes or anything I type in there. Yeah, so I don't know why, but you can try to figure that out yourself and then see why. So the main point is I want you guys to try to use Tailwind together with SASS, and then if possible use CSS together in your next assignment. So that's what like your next assignment will look like. So today we have been able to try out the concept and then try to build like a small website with SASS, right? So we are good to go. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to take room now for questions, and then if there's none, I'm going to say bye-bye for now until we see you in the next module. So we might meet again, possibly in the subsequent modules coming in front. So, but before then, I expect you guys to be JavaScript ninjas and then senior web developers by then. Yeah. So, questions? No questions? Are we free to call it a day? All right, nice. So let's try out all the concept and then assignments are going to come in. Today we talked about variables, we talked about operators, we talked about nesting, we talked about partials, we talked about mixing, we talked about functions, we talked about inheritance, we talked about control flow, all in SCSS or SASS. And with this, I believe that you guys are going to be like great front-end developers in the future. And with the tools that you have been taught, we hope to see like great work that you guys are going to be performing in the industry, right? So for now, for this module, this will be my last class for you guys. See you in the next ride. Thank you very much for your time and have a great day.